That's a good question. I think that without the incredibly dark time of my life, when I lost my first deal and I didn't know if I'd make music again, and I spent many years wandering the proverbial wilderness, working jobs that I hated, with everyone around me consistently, you know, suggesting that I just quit. I think without that experience, I never would have written my first album, which is probably the most honest thing that I've ever been able to write. It's not easy to be honest and to be authentic. I think all musicians try their best, but sometimes it takes being smashed open by very difficult circumstances to be able to deliver something that is really true. So I'm grateful for those times, but it was important for me to go through those times. I would definitely say that that optimism is an incredible strategy to use in life, and I've gone through periods of being very negative, which hasn't served me.
Welcome to Curious Goldfish, a podcast community where music and curiosity come together through interesting conversations with the music makers of our world. I'm your host, Jason English. You can find Curious Goldfish in all the major podcast and social media platforms, and of course, we have all of our content on our website, curiousgoldfish.com. Hey everybody, welcome back to Curious Goldfish. I'm Jason English. I just released a report about the state of music based on a survey of nearly 600 people. They were music fans, independent artists, and industry professionals. If you're into music in any way, shape, or form, you got to check out the report. There's a free summary on my website, curiousgoldfish.com. If you have ever wondered what happens when a billion-stream rock and roll show gets stripped down to one guy and an acoustic guitar, my guest today has the answer. Just recently, 30 fans stormed the stage in New York with kazoos. A guy in a horse mask did a striptease in another city. And a stink bug in Phoenix became the show. Welcome to the world of Barnes Courtney. He spoke with me from a hotel room in Ireland, kicking off his European tour. He just wrapped up a North American run that he expected to be a quiet, respectable listening room type of vibe. It wasn't. What I love about Barnes is how direct he is about the reality of being an artist right now. The State of Music survey that I just mentioned has a section called the content trap. The data says the platforms that artists are told they cannot survive without consistently reach the fans that are least likely to buy a ticket, a record, or a membership. Barnes is the working version of that finding. A billion streams behind him, ticket sales that break even on a good night, and years of Instagram posts that never converted, and a recurring VIP dinner series with superfans that literally pays for the tour. He explains the whole economy of it about halfway through, and any working artist should sit with what he has to say. We also get into the dark forest stretch of his early career, when he lost his first record deal and spent years in jobs that he hated, with everyone around him telling him to quit. He walks through the daily gratitude practice that pulled him out of it. Barnes is one of the most interesting guests and most talented artists I've ever had the pleasure of talking to. I think you're going to like this conversation. So now from Ipswich, England, here's Barnes Courtney. Let's dive in. So Barnes, good morning and good afternoon. I guess you're in Ireland today.
I'm in Ireland.
Kick off your tour, so congrats on that. How many shows do you have over in Europe?
That's a really good question. I have ADHD. I don't know.
You don't know? probably more than a couple, though, right?
Yeah, I think we're like out here for 3 weeks.
Okay, well that's awesome.
In the near future, we got I think Glasgow, Manchester, London, and Paris, and then we're finished all the way in Poland. So I think everywhere in between.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Well, good. So I saw something that you posted on your TikTok, which I thought was interesting. So you talked about the fact that you set up these acoustic shows and you just finished a leg in North America. And you talked about how the fact that like the vibe is completely different than what you expected. Because you and a guitar and it's, you're not surrounded by the band and a lot of other things. I guess, what were you expecting and how has it been different?
I was expecting a sort of very respectable, chill time, and it has been the complete opposite. It's been sweaty. People like 30 people brought kazoos to the New York show and stormed the stage and played 99 with me, my song. It was sounded like shit, and I told them so. It was fun. People like have like come up on stage and done a strip tease and a horse mask. There's crowd surfing. It's sweaty. I have like full on like rants with people in the audience. Yeah, I love it, dude. It's been hilarious.
So I guess you were expecting sort of more of a listening room vibe, from what I can gather, and like kind of telling
Yeah, I
stories and
think
stuff.
just
Or-
my own personality and my fans' personalities, I think we're just never gonna go to that place. It's so chaotic, and yeah, it's been fun.
No, it's great. So as an artist, I guess, are you more comfortable with a backing band and all the theatrics and everything, or are you more comfortable sort of just you and a guitar like this with your, engaging directly with your fans?
I mean, the backing band's terrifying in its own right because I'm so bloody unfit. That's the thing that scares me the most is being terribly out of shape. And I go out there and I can't restrain myself from dancing around with my titties out like the Sugar Plum Fairy. And then I get exhausted and tired in like the first half of the song. And I'm like, surely this isn't the end already. Much like my lovemaking sessions. And then it is very much the end. So, unless I'm very disciplined and I do a lot of hit training before I go out. If I do that, then it's good. But
That's good.
yeah, the band's fun. It's much more of a different character that I play with the band. It's all me, but it's different, like, magnifying glasses over my authentic self. And the band is big and bombastic and cathartic, and I'm running all over the place and diving. You can't talk as much to the audience with the band because you'll derail the rolling dumpster fire that is my show, and that's got to stay on the rails until at least the end when it spills its raccoons on the unsuspecting public. Whereas with the acoustic show, I can just talk. I can stop randomly in between songs and be like, "What the fuck are you guys talking about? What's going on over there?
Right.
Let me get to the bottom of this." Then I can like crawl around on the floor like a slug. I saw like a huge beetle on the stage in Phoenix, and like then that became an entire journey that the audience had to go on because they already paid their money. Uh, and we named it, and we wrote a song about it. And then some lady sort of decided to manhandle it, and it was a stink bug. I mean, it was a whole odyssey. Yeah, sounds.
That's amazing.
You had to be there.
And this is America. Now you're in Europe, so it's probably going to be totally turn a different page in a good way, probably. So that's awesome.
Not only will it be chaotic, but they also won't understand a word I'm saying.
Perfect. All right. So I on this notion of touring, I have a couple questions that are kind of more business, not to get like too in the business side, but I am
totally
curious because I
About
just
8
did
inches,
this.
I would say. is how long a newborn wiener dog is.
I mean, you're coming in hot here, Barnes. It's awesome.
Pretty hot.
All right, so I just did a survey just to my listeners and people that I know, about 600 people, and they talked about the results are pretty fascinating because this notion of like super fans, which I know you've said you may not have the most fans, but you've got the best fans. So
I do.
I think you've like probably per capita, the density of super fans is probably pretty high for you. But they talk about how social media isn't how they find their favorite artists. It's through live music, and then also word of mouth, right? Which
Very rare.
It's kind of like no dub, but artists like you though are told by, I think, the industry to just create content like endlessly. And
Yes.
and what's fascinating is the findings actually show that like you don't find your best fans that way. So
Do they really? That's interesting.
yeah, like with that in mind, And then knowing that touring, like the margins aren't great, like it's really hard, things can break down, your car could break down. And I know you've had a bunch of issues through the years, like as everybody does, touring. Like, how do you balance that? Which is like, okay, this is where my super fans are. I can engage with them in a different way in these settings. But at the same time, man, like the money sucks and it's hard and, whatever. I guess as an artist, do you think about that and how do you reconcile that?
I mean, if you want to make money, what are you doing being a musician? Like, why are you here? Why didn't you just learn financial literacy and go and do the stocks? You know that you pay like significantly less taxes on money that you made from stocks as opposed to like any other job? Like the people that wrote all the laws about taxes are the people with all the money. So like you can literally just go and learn their playbook and do what they do, and it's all totally legal. If you don't give a fuck about that and you want to sort of potentially, most likely, die old and alone in a box, having had some great memories, then do what I do as a musician. I, I don't know, dude. I just do it because I love this job so much. Every day is so much fun.
Yeah.
And I want to Tokyo drift into the grave. Like, goddamn, that was a wild ride. For me personally, like money is just a token for buying experiences. It's their fun tokens, and if I can have the fun funded, even if I maybe lose money at the end, as long as my life can continue on that trajectory, then I'm happy. Of course, money is a wonderful, many splendid thing. I want as much money as I can possibly get, but
Right.
it's very much an afterthought. It's a byproduct. First and foremost are the good times, and I've had my more than my fair share.
No, great perspective. So has that perspective changed now that you're like in your mid 30s versus when you were
Oh
19
yeah,
and
yeah. I don't believe any of that shit that I just
same.
said. Yeah, that was all just a lie to sound good. No, dude, it's still very much how I feel. Um, I was just looking through some really old videos from like 2019, trying to get some footage for a live music video that I'm
Yeah.
putting together, and I really, really, really miss my crew. I was lucky enough to have the same guys in my crew for like 6 years, and that was such a blessing because we just laughed our asses off every single day. Um, that's the only thing that's changed as I get older. People have kids, people settle into one place. They don't want to make music anymore and travel around. It's a very chaotic life, and that is the only thing that that really pains me deeply.
Mm.
Is that part of how I enjoy the world is through the eyes of the people around me. Through the relationships that I make and the family that I build on the road. Um, that is the hardest thing about being a solo artist is just not having your people all the time
Mm.
and changing them out, you know. And sometimes the relationships are very short. Sometimes you only have someone for a tour or half a tour. But I think I've had to reconcile and decide this just because it doesn't last forever, it doesn't mean that it wasn't real and that it didn't mean
Mm.
something at the time. At least that's what I
Do
whisper
you
to
have
myself when I'm sobbing into my hands under the sink. Next question.
do you have any desire to settle down and like have kids and stuff or not really?
I think that would be nice. Yeah, I think so. But maybe I'd like to sort of be a sweaty pirate hooker for a little bit longer. Exactly how long, I don't know. I think I'll know when it's time, you know? And maybe I won't, maybe
Yeah.
it'll be a season of my life, or maybe the kids can come on the road. I haven't really considered. But I would like
Yeah.
to get to a point where I've done a lot more adventures and accomplished some lofty goals and perhaps made enough money to live comfortably with a bunch of kids instead of just enough to live comfortably by myself irresponsibly.
Yeah. That's different. Yeah. That's a different sort of a different level. Uh
Kids
all right.
are,
That's good.
to be a good parent, I believe that your life has to become a lot about your kid's life. Your life shifts in
Mhm.
priorities. So I would have to have my career in a very, very good place, I think, to be able to devote myself to children in the way that I think they would deserve.
So speaking of like again, perspective versus as a mid-30s person, and then teenager. So one of the things and everybody's got their own story, right? But this notion of like a dark forest, so someone says, fairy tales don't start nor they end in the dark forest. And like you had a really dark forest there for a few years, with all the issues
Thank
that you
you.
had with your record label and
So they
everything.
called me in prison. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's, I can't imagine. And what's funny about, not funny, but what's interesting about what you said earlier about money is that you still have a very, I should say like a youthful view on money, because especially after what you went through, I would think this like, okay, after I lost basically everything and like, again, all the things that you had to deal with around that, I would think that like, okay, I've got like money and income and all that has to be priority, but you still have this like great sort of like free spirit view about it. But I guess my point in bringing up the dark forest again is, what was the darkest point of that forest for you? And if you had to go back and talk to yourself, when you were 18 or 19, what would you tell yourself to sort of get through it or to prevent that from happening?
That's a good question. I mean, I think that without the incredibly dark time in my life, when I lost my first deal and I didn't know if I'd make music again, and I spent many years like wandering the proverbial wilderness, working jobs that I hated, with everyone around me consistently, you know, suggesting that I just quit. I think without that experience, I never would have written my first album, which is probably the most honest thing that I've ever been able to write. Um, it's not easy to be honest and to be authentic. I think all musicians try their best, but sometimes it takes being smashed open by very difficult circumstances to be able to deliver something that is really true. Um, and so I'm grateful for those times. And I don't know. It's hard to know what to tell my previous self. I really, it was important for me to go through those times. I would definitely say that optimism is an incredible strategy to use in life, and I've gone through periods of being very negative, which hasn't served me. And I'm not talking necessarily in a cosmic sort of law of attraction sense, although I do think that's an interesting idea. But when you're constantly focusing on gratitude, when I'm in good discipline, I'll focus every day for 10 minutes on the most basic things I can think of to be grateful for. Thank you for soap. Not everyone has soap. Thank you for a place to sleep that's warm. Not everybody. It so effectively lowers the baseline for what is good in your life that everything above that just seems like a miracle. And days are so much more colorful. It takes a couple of weeks to a month for your subconscious to start to absorb this idea. But it's weird, and I don't know everybody's brain, but it really works for me. It really, really works. And then through that lens, you start to see so many more opportunities. Your brain is just a glorified Google search of neurons, and it looks for what you tell it to look for. And with optimism, you start to reach out and search for opportunities more so than sit around waiting for them to arrive on your lap. And I'll message musicians that I would normally think, oh, he's not going to be interested in my project, and end up doing these incredible collaborations and finding little flecks of light all around. Um, so I think that would be an important conversation to have with my younger self, who was a
Yeah.
master catastrophizer in some respects.
No, it's great. All right. So similar to that, again, this podcast that I have, the spirit and the theme of this is curiosity. And, I think in personal relationships, business, whatever, like I think curiosity is extremely underrated. And it's kind of similar to optimism, and it's kind of similar to sort of not waiting for someone to call you, like you proactively reach out. You're your own Google search, like you said. So I guess at this point in your career, what are you most curious about?
At this point in my career, I'm most curious to see if I can. Well, I've always been curious about the same thing, really. I want to see how close I can get to the lofty standings of my idols. I want to see if I can touch the hem of Bowie's gown atop Mount Immortality. I want to see if I can get anywhere near the thing. Um, and that's what makes music so fantastic is you never really finish. You know, you're just constantly
Right.
working to see if you can get that little bit better. But I mean, the main thing for me, the main attraction to this job has always been the same, and that is to try and live well. Um,
Hmm.
you know, it reminds me of that Bukowski quote, and live well, live so well that death will tremble to take us. Um, and I
Awesome.
want that. And, you know, every day when I look back and I'm like, oh, I didn't really, I wasn't very open that day. I was a little closed off. I was negative that day. I didn't enjoy myself. I feel bad. I really regret it. It's something that's always been a very prominent feeling in my life ever since I was a little kid. You know, I
Hmm.
remember hearing a story about how my grandfather was a prisoner of war and had to eat turnips for like a year in the POW camp, and it really struck me. Like, oh my God, he wasted a whole year when he could have been having fun. Like that poor guy.
Man. All right. Well, good answer. That was awesome. But like what's crazy about you though is, people have ambitions and they have goals for themselves, whether that's like today, this week, or as a career, right? Not too many. I mean, you are in your own stratosphere, just given just how the public has reacted to a lot of your songs. I mean, there's very few artists that have hit a billion streams, right? So do you? It sounds like you still have, you want to touch the hem of Bowie, which is awesome. It's a great way to put it, but you're in sort of rare air already. Do you recognize that?
I think I should recognize it more than I do. I think it's very, very important. I was talking about looking back at those videos and with the previous band, and I think I was having so much fun. I'm watching these videos from the perspective of somebody 10 years like down the line. And I'm like, oh my God, my life just looks so fun. Like every day is a new adventure. We're just laughing constantly, like goofing around in different countries and different places. And there are all these different characters coming in and out. And I did appreciate it at the time, but I was also very, very down about the size of my career. You know, I'm a very ambitious person as well as somebody who is motivated by a life well lived. I always
Mm.
dreamed of ludicrous heights, and it's important to set your sights as high as you can imagine, but also not live there. You know,
Mm.
also live in the present and understand that you know the goal is what makes it fun.
Mm.
The goal it gives you something to do. What's that Lennon quote? Life is what happens when you're busy making other plans. It's so true.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
It's like a game of Monopoly. You know, you play it to win as big as you possibly can, but ultimately, you know, you are playing it to have a good time. And if you're sitting there stressing and crying about how many little blue houses you have on the spaces, then you're kind of missing the point.
Yeah. Great perspective. Thanks for sharing that. So you mentioned the word authenticity earlier. I do need to ask, where are you at in this whole thing with artificial intelligence and music? It's a
I
complete.
think that a rising
Yeah.
tide raises all ships. I think
Mm.
that, and I've said this many times before, everyone thought the autotune would be the death of singers,
Mm.
and it wasn't. People who innovate will always innovate. So you had people like Hello Goodbye, T-Pain, making it into a genre, turning it up beyond the point that it was
Mm.
designed for, and creating this whole new world of soundscapes. And the same for the drum machine, you know. And I think the same was said when we switched from analog recording techniques to digital, and we're now able to make millions of edits and have millions of tracks. And you know, it didn't kill authenticity. Um, it I think hacks will always be blatantly obvious as hacks, and
Mm.
innovators will always figure out how to take the technology of the time to places that we don't expect. If the
Do you?
baseline is that every single person in the world can type in a subject and spit out a song, then that will no longer be entertaining and novel to the general populace.
Yeah.
Someone is going to have to figure out how to do something more interesting than that.
Yeah. Well, I just think like with you, in the context of you and your career and what you've made, like I can't imagine the sound and the words that came out of Glitter and Gold, and the legendary story of how that was made. I can't imagine that just being the result of a prompt by like somebody like me in my office.
No, but I don't know what the future holds for AI, but it reminds me of an interview that Bowie had with Jeremy Paxman in the 90s about the internet. Oh, the internet, says Jeremy. It's just a glorified mailing system, isn't it? No, it's not, says Bowie. It's an alien being that hasn't even landed yet. We don't even know what it's capable of. Is there life on Mars? He says, jokingly. Yes, there is, and it's called the internet. And of course, he was right. He
Right.
couldn't be prescriptive about specifically what would emerge. Uber, like, or Amazon, um, or like massively multiplayer online games. Um, but look at all this incredible innovation and this entirely new universe that emerged out of something that was supposed to be a glorified way to send mail, you know? And the same will be true for AI.
Yeah. Well, you're an artist too that has taken advantage of the internet, like this glorified mailing system, to engage with your fans in a different way with like Patreon and stuff. Like, has that actually worked out in a way that you didn't anticipate?
Yeah, yeah, especially Twitch. Especially Twitch, I would
Mm.
say. Um, I didn't expect because over the years I put so much effort into Instagram stories at various points in my career and posting, and there have been huge times when I haven't posted stories or posted, but it's never been something that I felt particularly natural doing. And there are people who are very good at being authentic in that space, like Youngblood is very good at being himself in that space. And without the feedback from the audience being immediate, I never felt like I had
Mm.
anything to say. I'm somebody that enjoys being with others. I'm an extrovert. Um, and it wasn't until I started spending huge amounts of time on Twitch in a place where fans could message me back immediately in real time, um, that I started to feel like, yeah, this is a real experience. And the difference in the shows has been palpable. I mean, they hang out with each other. There's a community. They coordinate with each other. They'll like, make little
Mm.
plans. That thing where they all brought 30 kazoos to the show. They they came up with that because we were all hanging out and they got to know me and I got to know them. And I think previously they would have been scared, like, oh no, he's not gonna like that. That's gonna mess up his
Mm.
show. But they know that I'm an ADHD DJ and that's the kind of shit that I would like. That I enjoy the chaos and uh, they can come and fuck around.
Yeah. So give me an example Twitch session. Is it like you just chatting it up? Are you playing music? What are you doing?
I used to play video games, and then
Mm.
everyone decided that I was so bad that they just never wanted me to do that again. So then I just started like hanging out. Yeah, we just like talk, and I
Mm.
rant, for like 20 minutes about like all the super muscular celebrity butts on that hockey show. How I've never seen so many butt shots in any television show I've ever watched in my life. And how incredible that is. Like, it's like, I'm kind of amazed. It's just medically fascinating. I didn't realize that the sculpted anatomy of butts could be so well studied through through the eyes of cinema. I was like, this whole shit, it's not even about the plot at this point anymore. It's just about all the different tense positions of these guys' butt cheeks. So I'll rant about that for a while and then maybe I'll play a song.
Awesome. All right. But yeah, like, okay. So I've talked to people that have a Patreon. Obviously, I've talked to people that have Discord. But the Twitch thing's new for me, so that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
been
Well, that's
fun. And then
cool.
we have a Discord that's like connected to the the Twitch that they all sort
Mhm.
of chat on and hang out on. I'll pop in there and say hello. It's been really nice.
Are you still doing those VIP dinners and stuff while you're touring with some of
Oh
those
yeah.
super fans? Or yeah,
Oh, I'm so lucky,
what's
dude.
give me one moment that's like sticks out at you about the time with them.
I just fucking love dinner parties. I love any excuse to go to a beautiful restaurant and devote myself entirely to the pleasures of the table, surrounded by people that just want to talk about music. I meet some
Yeah,
really interesting people, and I love meeting new people. The nice thing about the dinners is that something about like that ancient biblical idea of breaking bread makes everyone
yeah.
feel relaxed and like we're all
Mm.
on the same level, and they can chill and they don't have to worry about me being this lofty ideation of some rock and roll archetype and just talk to me like they would to anybody else, which is super fun for me. And I hear all these crazy stories about like I met this one guy who was living in Saddam's palace after, like just after they took it over, and he was like, "Yeah, bro, and I found this like ancient cuneiform tablet, and like it must have been fancy because I know that Saddam collected that shit, but he donated it all to museums, and this was the only one in the palace, so it must have been some hot shit." And we took it, and in the military, you get in enormous amounts of trouble and can go to jail if you steal shit and send it home. He's like, but we paid off this guy. And we were going to ship it back. And just before it was about to be shipped off, one of the other guys that we knew was like, oh, I got to see this. So we sent this kid to go and grab it real quick. And as he was bringing it across the scorching desert sands, he tripped over and fell and dropped this thing. And he was like, this thing didn't just crack. He said half of it just disintegrated into dust. It was like just
Oh my god.
fine sand because they're made out of river clay, like ancient river clay that was baked. Um, and he's like, so half of it was immediately gone. And then this kid got so angry at himself for dropping it that he picked up the other half and smashed it on the ground. And we were like, no. Didn't even get a picture. This thing's like 3,000, 5,000 years old. Um,
Dang.
but what a tale. I love shit like
Yeah,
that.
seriously. Yeah, seriously. Yeah, what's interesting about are those parties? Do you have to be part of your Patreon to like get invited or do that, or is that like a
Nah, dude. No, you
thing?
just sign up.
You sign up. All right,
I
that's
just
amazing.
noticed that like the meet and greets in the venue were super awkward, and I think a lot of people came
Yeah.
in expecting a step and repeat photograph, which is never what I
Mm,
did. So I was like, how can I
mm.
make it more like the estranged family that we actually are? This
Yeah.
weird kind of hodgepodge of people who are somehow all very similar in our predilections. And yeah, the dinner parties have been wonderful.
I think as a fan, I think that's the coolest thing because I think a lot of people don't understand that artists, whether you have a billion streams or whether you have 5 streams a month or everything in between, I think a lot of the fans feel like we're bugging people, annoying people. Like you all are so busy that you can't hang out. And you're proving the fact that like you're a real person that puts his pants on one leg at a time. Whatever. So I think that's a great message and a
I
great
actually I
example.
actually taught myself as a boy to jump into my pants 2 legs at a time. Much to the chagrin of my stepfather, who told me that exact same quote as a lesson in humility.
When I was saying the question, I'm like, I waiting for Barnes to tell me he doesn't put on his pants one leg at a time. So yeah, I called that one.
But
No, that's
yeah,
great. Okay.
I to your point, it's totally like that. We just shoot the shit
Yeah.
and hang out, and it's really fun. And now every day of the tour, I get to go to dinner and laugh my ass off and have a great time, as opposed to go to a venue and like have a really awkward interaction with people in a way that doesn't actually demonstrate who they are at their core.
That's great. Well, good for you, man. That's amazing. All right. So a couple more questions just about some music. So you talked about like the chaos, you kind of crave chaos, you enjoy it. And then I've read that your songwriting process is kind of the opposite. It's kind of like a monastic sort of discipline where you sit at a desk and if it comes, it comes. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I guess how do you balance those extreme sort of I don't know, behaviors or mindsets?
Well, my songwriting process is all over the place. I mean, I think, anybody that tells you there's a specific way to do it is full of shit. Like
Mm,
the door to creativity is always shifting. And,
mm,
it's about being humble and just putting in the work and letting go of the outcome. And sometimes the songs come to you in great bursts and, you know, sometimes they don't. But I find that it's very similar to fishing. You just go down to the lake and you put your hook in the water, and you don't get to decide whether it's a tiny little
mm,
sardine or a marlin that's swimming by. But the more you got your hook in the water, the more likely you are to catch something. And the more time you spend reeling stuff in, the better you get at pulling it out
mm.
without fucking up,
Yeah, yeah.
with your overthinking. So yeah, I mean, I find a lot of melodies just turn up if I really need catharsis, songs just appear, but lyrics take me a very long time. That's
Mm.
something where like oftentimes I get a few for free with the initial idea, but then I do have to sit down, um, and I don't really do anything, dude. I just wait. I just sit there and I just wait, and like a lot of days I'll just sit there and wait, and like absolutely fucking nothing will come. And I'll be there for like 4 to 8 hours, just sitting, just waiting. And you have to trust that something will eventually come. Um, and as a professional, you're like, I'm just clocking in, and I'm not. It's not about me.
Yeah.
You don't get to decide when the muse is going to come whisper in your ear, but she's much more
Mm.
likely. Um, well, to quote Stephen Pressfield, or to paraphrase Stephen Pressfield in his book, The War of Art,
World of
you know,
art.
you could be in the bar or playing video games, and she might be whispering in her ear, and you won't notice. So the best way to make sure you catch every message is to spend as much time in that chair as possible.
That's great. Very cool. All right. So 3 studio albums are under your belt. You're about to release, I think, your first live album called Live and Wired, which is awesome. I guess why now on the live album? And then as you think about songwriting moving forward, do you think they'll continue your sort of anthem, uh, you know, cathartic death chant sort of vibe? Or as you get older, do you see yourself pivoting at all?
Yeah, well, I think this live album was recorded just because I really loved the sound of my live band. Um,
Mm,
and I thought I got to capture this because they just sound so shit hot, especially on the bluesier numbers, like hands and kicks. But they also killed it on a couple of others, like Kids Are All Right. Um, and then yeah, this record's going to be very, very different. It's very
mm,
introspective. It's the album that the Hard to Be Alone EP was supposed to be, but the label didn't fund
mm.
it. So it's going to have Dopamine and Hard to Be Alone from the EP on there, and then 12 other songs as well that are all very kind of like wide open, cinematic, um,
Mm.
introspective, lyrical songs.
Very cool. Very cool. So is that next album, is that already kind of produced and recorded, or
Pretty
is
much
that
done.
still,
It's almost, I'd
is
say
it
it's
pretty
like
much done?
95% done, and we got to mix it too.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, that's exciting. All right. Cool. Well, Barnes, I really appreciate your time as you are on tour, kicking off the European leg. It's been an honor to talk to you, man. You got a great perspective, and
Oh,
congrats
thanks,
on
thanks for
kind of
knowing who I am.
digging into your fans, man. Like that's it's really really impressive, especially with all the stuff that you've been through. So really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate the fans. They give me everything that I have. And those VIP dinners, like they literally in an environment where you at the level that I'm selling tickets, you literally end up with either no money at the end of the tour from the ticket sales, or you end up in debt from the ticket sales.
Right.
So by coming to the dinners, they are literally making it possible for me to do my job. Um,
Hmm.
I really like. Not only is it a great time for me, and they're making my life, like 100 times better because I love dinner parties, but they're also literally making it so that the tours run and I can continue to do this job. So mega mega thanks to everybody that's come out and been to one.
Very cool. All right, man. Well, safe travels. Good luck, and hope to see you in Atlanta sometime.
Oh, dude, I'll definitely be back. I was just there about a month ago, but I'm coming back.
All right, cool. All right, thanks, Barnes. Take care, man.
See ya. Appreciate you. Thanks for your time.